I'm Ansha. Thank you, GDG, for having me here. Today, I want to be talking about something that we are somehow always surrounded about, but how we interact in a digital economy and how we function in a digital economy. I want to present a very different take on that. But first, let me talk a little bit about myself. I am today representing Beckn Protocol. I am the global community head for the open source protocol Beckn. We are today present in 8 countries across 4 continents. Previously to Beckn Protocol, I have been a startup founder for a community-led organization. Okay, so what comes to your mind when you hear the term networking protocol? Anybody wants to take a guess or say something about it? Okay, so networking protocol is nothing but a set of rules which, when implemented, allows any computer endpoints in any network to communicate with each other seamlessly despite the differences in their infrastructures, designs, or standards. And this is not something new to us. We've been surrounded by technologies that have been population scale and based on open networks. Technologies like internet. Today, if any browser is HTTP compliant, they can discover any website on any web server all across. GPS, mobile GSM, another technology. Today, if you are on Airtel, you can communicate with an AT&T network with somebody who is in the US, just with a simple phone number. All of this is possible because of open protocols. We have seen these open technologies bring about population and civilization scale impact. The question is, if that is the case, why is such behavior not present in our day-to-day interactions with the digital world? So let's first understand how we transact in a digital ecosystem today. We are led by a platform economy. We have the Olas, Ubers, Amazons of the world, wherein they are aggregating both the demand and the supply side. When I say they are aggregating both the demand and the supply side, they are putting efforts on the consumer end to acquire consumers, putting efforts on the seller side to acquire sellers, and then establishing an end-to-end technical infrastructure for an economic transaction to happen between these parties. This model is great, right? We cannot imagine our lives today without an Amazon. You want anything, you go to an Amazon or a Flipkart, or you want any kind of service, any kind of product, one or multiple platforms or such apps are available for it. And we're used to this system. But this system is not without its own challenges. If we look at it, since there are so many platforms present, it essentially makes the ecosystem fragmented and siloed. If you're present on Amazon, Amazon is not talking to Flipkart. If you're present on Amazon, you can only discover what Amazon has to offer, essentially creating multiple microeconomies within the ecosystem. We also the platform choices gets limited because, again, any seller that is present on a Flipkart's network or a Flipkart's ecosystem is not discoverable by Amazon, essentially because these platforms are not talking to each other. Also, these platforms dictate the policies for sellers and the buyers in the environment in which they transact, often charging very high commissions to the sellers, essentially, increasing the barrier to entry. Sellers are often stuck with these platforms because if you are a seller, for example, on Amazon, all the reputation that you have built over the last couple of years that you might have been in business is only on Amazon. The day you choose to move out of Amazon, all your reputation goes with it. These platforms often collect a lot of our personal data. We are usually clueless about what happens with it. Platforms are susceptible to major data breaches, and hence our data security is always at stake. Our digital landscape is changing fairly quickly. Regulatory organizations often have a hard time catching up with technological advancements of these digital economy platforms. And hence, there are taxation breaches. There's an antitrust created in the economy in general. So, we understand that aggregator models have worked for us, but they do come with their challenges. But how do we eliminate these challenges? Like I said earlier, technology is like internet, mobile, GSM, are population scale technologies, and they are essentially open. Why can't we take a similar approach towards how we transact today in a digital economy? So from siloed platforms, wherein Ola, Ubers, or any other platform is aggregating the demand and supply in their own ecosystem, why don't we decouple the seller side from the buyer side and introduce an open network, essentially opening up the economy from the center and redistributing the opportunity, the risk, and the cost involved with doing these businesses. We often hear about platforms complaining that being able to scale is a challenge for them. Today, Amazon operates at a scale of 300 million customers worldwide. Uber operates at a scale of 130 million customers worldwide. But that is not even 10% of the global population. Why are we not, when we say scale, why are we not talking about 800 million customers, 1 billion customers as a part of a formal digitized economy? To understand this further, first let's understand what is the life cycle of a digital economic transaction. The first layer is obviously discovery, wherein a user is searching for any item, any service, any skill, any experience. And as a result of that search, the user is returned with a relevant catalog of items which he can then choose from. Once you choose from it, you enter into the ordering stage, wherein you agree, there's a terms of agreement. You agree to a certain amount of money that you want to pay, and the payment gets through. Coming on to fulfillment, the next stage would be I'm so sorry, I have no idea why is this moving on its own, but the third stage is fulfillment, essentially fulfilling or sending the product across or making the transaction happen. And then post-fulfillment, if the user wants to go back, research, rate, or do something like that. Now, how do we want to do these transactions in an open network? We can do these transactions via a protocol called Beckn protocol. Beckn protocols unlocks decentralized and interoperable discovery, fulfillment, and post-order fulfillment and post-fulfillment flows. If you see on the left-hand side, you see a platform-centric model wherein discovery, order, and fulfillment are happening in a closed loop. In an open network setting, multiple platforms on the seller side and multiple platforms on the buyer side are a part of an open network and are discoverable by one another. So what does a Beckn-enabled open network do? A Beckn-enabled, you can consider Beckn open-enabled networks like digital rails, very similar to physical rails what we have for commuting from one place to another. Beckn provides digital rails for consumer-provider transactions for trusted, low-cost, and they are decentralized. And these kind of networks can be scaled. There's no intermediary. There is no intermediating party like an Amazon or an Uber. They are peer-to-peer decentralized networks, hence reducing the costs. Because now the barrier to entry is low, small and medium businesses can participate into the economy and become a part of the digital economy as such overall. Beckn's design allows privacy, hence our data will be secure. So Beckn is nothing but an economic resource and discovery transaction protocol. Keywords being economic resources, any service, any product, any experience that involves an economic value attached to it can be considered an economic resource. It doesn't really have to be a physical good. Energy, for that matter, is an economic resource. Discovery and transacting, discovery is very self-explanatory. When I talk about transaction, people often assume transaction is an exchange of money. Transaction is any interaction, ordering, booking, blocking, sourcing. The protocol's design enables decentralization and peer-to-peer networks. It is generic but exhaustive. It is a layered architecture, and the transaction happens as micro-contracts. It is a pure specification. There is no runtime to it. It is technology agnostic. It can be used with any tech stack. And any tech stack can talk to, or any technical ecosystem can talk to any other technical ecosystem if they are protocol compliant. And Beckn is an open source protocol. Let's look at what are the components essentially in a Beckn-enabled ecosystem. Beckn application platforms, which are essentially user-centric interfaces. Beckn provider platforms, which are seller-side interfaces. Beckn gateways. Beckn gateways interface between application platforms and seller platforms by broadcasting the search requests. And network registry, something very similar to DNS. It is the registry that holds the record of all registered network participants, both application platforms and provider platforms. Let us deep dive a little bit into Beckn application platforms. We call them BAPs in short. The role of a Beckn application platform is to interface with the Beckn gateway to discover the products and services on an open network, place orders, view and track status updates, update or cancel orders, rate orders, and contact support. Essentially reaching out to the seller side for placing the orders, tracking end-to-end, where is my order, what is happening with my order. It is very important to understand that a Beckn application platform does not maintain any active inventory. Because we are decoupling the entire ecosystem, the inventory is maintained by Beckn provider platforms. The goal of the Beckn application platform is to provide a rich buying experience to the customers. Looking at some examples for Beckn application platforms, all aggregator apps, the front end that we use for Amazon today can act as a BAP. Super apps, D2C storefronts for WooCommerce, consumer-facing chatbots, anything that we interact with to source information from the businesses. Hardware utilities, kiosks, we interact with kiosks to get a lot of things done. IoT, even for that matter, IoT systems, helpline numbers where user can reach out for a particular help or a service can act as a BAP. Moving on to BPPs. The BPPs acquire businesses and service providers essentially. They maintain active inventories. BPPs interface with the Beckn gateways to push catalogs as a return of the search request, create orders, provide status update around what is happening with the orders, provide tracking info, accept ratings, provide support info, provide feedback to the entire economic transaction that might have happened on the open network. Some examples for BPPs are aggregator apps or back-end apps of consumer apps like Redbus, Ola's driver app, essentially, can become BPPs. D2C, backends of D2C storefronts, dashboards for Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce. Business-facing chatbots, Telegram, WhatsApp bots, POS systems. Now moving on to Beckn gateways. Beckn gateways is essentially an interaction layer between BAPs and BPPs. The role of the Beckn gateway is to broadcast all the search requests from a BAP to a BPP, essentially from a user's interface to a seller interface. And we often realize that in platform economy, the search results are biased, right? The more you pay, or there are different platforms might have different policies on how they display search results. Beckn Gateway's primary role is to make sure that there is no discrimination in terms of how a search request is returned. The Beckn Gateway provides equal opportunities for every service that has been asked for to be discoverable on the BAP side. Beckn Registry. So in an open network, there has to be some way of creating trust and authentication in the ecosystem. Beckn Registry acts as the ledger maintainer, holds the registrations for all the authorized and pre-vetted network participants. In an open network, only if they are registered with the Beckn Registry, a BAP or a BPP can interact in an open network. Beckn Registry also enables authenticated lookup of trusted platforms on the network, stores public keys for digital signing and verification of transaction between network participants, and allows search-based filtering. Let's say you want open network. In an open network, Amazon can be returning grocery and clothing. If you're searching for clothing, you will only be presented with clothing. And if there are multiple provider platforms who are present in the clothing category, all of the catalog will be published. In a Beckn ecosystem is very simple to understand. Earlier we looked at the life cycle of an economic transaction. And any Beckn consumer provider interaction can essentially be broken down into 10 API callbacks, requests and callbacks. Like I said, discovery, you search and returns on search, ordering, fulfillment, and post-fulfillment. And these end-to-end point communications are asynchronous in nature. Let's understand how the protocol communicates essentially. So you see in the first diagram, a BAP is requesting a search, is initiating search, and the Beckn gateways via BPPs. Here there are 3 BPPs, there can be 100 BPPs. If they are in a relevant segment, relevant search results will be showcased to BAP via the Beckn gateway. Here we see that it is happening, the search results are being displayed to BAP via the Beckn gateway. This was an earlier version of the protocol. However, now only the on-search part does not involve it bypasses the gateway and goes directly to the BAP. Beckn gateway's only job now is to broadcast the search request to the BPPs. Requesting callbacks. BAPs can request a callback from BPPs around the status of their orders, which is essentially a confirm and on-confirm API. BPPs can initiate independent callbacks for the BAPs, like returning the status of the orders, and tracking info, asking for rating, asking for information, and more such. Now that we've understood what the technical architecture of Beckn is and what is what is the need of these open networks, let's see some of the open networks in action right now. Let me start off by, you see 3 transactions happening here, which is UEI transaction 1, UEI transaction 2, and UEI transaction 3. I'll break down these transactions and then talk about how this system works as an open network. So energy essentially, okay, so I think we are a little short on time, so I'll move through these slides a little quickly. All right. So in an open network, this is essentially an open network where 3 kinds of companies are interacting in an energy ecosystem. Pulse Energy has set up an open network has set up an interoperable ecosystem for charge point operators, essentially decentralized discovery of EV charging and transaction. Sheru enables the decentralized warehousing of energy, wherein we communicate, let's say any device you have in your house, any device that has a storage capability can be converted into a storage, can have a storage capacity for energy, and it is a potential monetizing avenue for you. Turno is a company that is refurbishing older EV batteries and increasing their shelf life. All of these players interact in an ecosystem to kind of create a connected energy ecosystem wherein green energy is discoverable via Sheru, via UEI, and via Turno. Maybe this is how an energy enabled ecosystem can work at scale. I'm sure a lot of anybody who's been to Bangalore must have heard of Namayatri. Namayatri is the first peer-to-peer decentralized mobility network, wherein there's no aggregator. It is just a tech base and the drivers themselves. So it was initiated by Just Pay, and there's no commission. It took Namayatri around 288 days to reach its first million rides, and today we are at 16 million completed trips, 59 million total searches, 1 million registered, around 1 lakh registered drivers, and around 2 million registered users just in Bangalore. We might have been familiar with ONDC. ONDC is again an open network for digital commerce. With the McKinsey projects that with ONDC, India's digital consumption is going to increase by 5x by the forecast year 30. 4x active e-commerce user, 6 to 7x growth in the MSME digital commerce. Today, ONDC is live in 7 cities and clocking around 93,000 orders per day. How is the ecosystem adopting all of these open technologies? Antler India has started a Beckn and ONDC cohort, essentially with the focus area on EV charging, mobility, and education. And Google Cloud has launched an accelerator for ONDC, essentially making them eligible for a 25,000 incentive if you are building on ONDC. This is how we can imagine a smart city in an open network, where different kinds of systems, different kinds of open networks are interacting one another and are leveraging one another. Today Beckn is currently present globally in these countries across various sectors like manufacturing, EV, smart city management, mobility, agri-commerce, skill and education, essentially establishing open networks in all of these domains. This is a good look at some of the ecosystems. ONDC works in mobility, grocery, food. We have UEI, the Unified Energy Interface that I showed a couple of slides back. Unified Health Interface for health and wellness. For education and skilling, we have an open network called Honest, and we recently saw a network going live in Brazil for skilling and education, which is called Open Bellem. Like any open source technology, Beckn is also governed by a community, which is the Beckn Open Collective. And we are basically making sure that the community has a global presence, community interacts, community is on the top of innovation and evolving the protocol for more and more use cases. So, as a conclusion, just to round up about how Beckn originated, what is the idea behind it. Beckn FIDE, Foundation for Interoperability in Digital Economy, is the genesis author of Beckn Protocol, with Mr. Nandan Nilekani, Dr. Pramod Verma, and Sujit Nair as our co-founders. I'm sure Mr. Nandan Nilekani and Pramod Verma do not need any introduction. They are the people behind population scale implementations like Aadhaar and UPI. We are a not-for-profit organization, Genesis author to the Beckn protocol, and angel donor to the protocol. FIDE also fosters the open community, which is the Beckn Open Collective. So that's been my time. Thank you all for having me. If you want to participate in the open network, want to learn more about Beckn, just explore what Beckn can enable for you, and have a new technology, start development in a new ecosystem, please feel free to scan the QR code and join the community. Thank you.